Hi guys, you may have noticed lately that I've been wearing this. It's a 550 Paracord Bracelet. It's a great little item to add to your everyday carry. You never know when you're going to need more cordage, and having access to 10 feet or so of 550 on your wrist at all times is a really useful thing to have. So today I'm going to show you how to make one. So let's talk about what we need. Obviously we need some paracord. The exact length depends on the circumference of your wrist. We'll talk about that in a minute. A lighter, cutting implement, measuring device, and a plastic side release buckle. Now, this is the part that's usually the most difficult to come by. You can order them on the internet, but unless you're buying like boxes of 100, they can be a little bit expensive. The best source I found is pet collars from the dollar store. Okay, this is actually came off a dog collar from the local dollar store. The whole thing cost $1. I just cut it off. Hey presto, side release buckle. The good thing about these is they actually have the curve shape on them, because a lot of the ones you will find on sort of wedding straps and things like that are straight and they're not as comfortable on your wrist. These ones with the curve, they fit very nicely on your wrist. You see? Great. For $1, why not? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is figure out how long a paracord needs to be. For a cobra weave, typically you need 1 foot for every inch of circumference of your wrist. So let's find out how wide my wrist is. Bring the wrap paracord around the wrist. So it's about here. Okay. So we have, let's see, that's about 8 inches of paracord. Now I'll allow another inch for the buckle. That gives me 9. So that's 9 inches, which means I need 9 feet of paracord. If your paracord has quite a long frayed end like this, just cut the end off, because that'll be a pain when we're actually doing the weave. Okay, but we don't want to seal it just yet, so just cut the end off and you'll be fine. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get the female side of our side release buckle, get the loop, fold our paracord in half so we have a looped end like this, feed that loop into the loophole of the side release buckle. You may have to just sort of stick your finger down and pull it through. There we go. Like that. And take the opposite ends of our paracord, feed it through the loop we just created. Keep your finger on just so everything stays in position, and then we pull it tight. So we have a nice little loop here, and if we pull it out, 2 ends of our paracord are still pretty closely matched. Okay. Next we need to take our 2 cut opposite ends and feed them through the male part of the side release buckle. Like this. You see the fraying does present a bit of a problem, which is why I cut it off before, and it's starting to fray again already. How much it will fray really depends on the kind of paracord that you have. If it's true 550, it should fray quite a lot because you've got the same strands inside. Okay, so we pull it tight like this, and then we need to measure again using the distance we already measured from the inside of our wrist, which in my case was 8 inches. And we need to get the length of the bracelet to be around 8 inches. I'll allow a little bit more for the length of the buckle, because you don't want it to be too tight around your wrist. So here my total length is just under 9 inches. Okay. And then we just need to make sure that stays in place. So we'll just hold it like that. So first we need to get our 2 central strands like that and our 2 outer strands. Just put them up out of the way. Okay, just lay it out like this. We take one of the outer strands, pass it under the 2 centre strands, create ourselves a little loop like so. And we take our other outer strand, pass it underneath the opposite outer strand, pull it over like so, and pass it through the opposite loop. So what we should end up with is a knot looking like that. Okay? Now we need to pull that tight. Trying to make sure that the 2 double ends of the inner core stay inside the sort of release buckle. Okay, so that's nice and tight. Like so. And next we take the opposite side to the one we just worked with, the outer strand. Again, pass it under the double loop, like so, and over the opposite outer strand. And we pull the opposite outer strand through that loop that we just made. So again, we have a little over under loop going on there, and we pull that tight. Now you can see the cobra weave is starting to take shape already. We have a little loop over here, and a loop going under there. Okay, and now basically we just repeat that until we run out of paracord. Opposite end under the double loop and over the opposite strand, back around through the opposite loop. Just pull tight. Okay, start from the other side. Under, over, opposite side comes in, around, over, through the loop, pull it tight. This will get a lot easier as the lengths of paracord get shorter. But basically what you should see is you see a pattern start to emerge with the loops on alternating sides as you go through. Okay? And if you ever find yourself getting messed up and you end up having these loops on the same side, you'll notice pretty quickly, and you'll know to undo it and start again, go back to where you were. Once you're about halfway down, what I find is it's actually easier if you just take the female and the side release buckle in, and put 2 fingers between the 2 central cores here and just push down, make it nice and tight again. Okay, because remember we want to use up our full 8 feet of paracord here, so just pull it, make it nice and tight, and then you'll notice that the length is actually a lot shorter again. And then we go back to tying the cobra weave knots. As you can see, like I said, as the lengths of paracord become shorter, the quicker and easier the process becomes. Again, if you start to approach the end of the female buckle and you've still got a good length of paracord left, just push it down again, tighten it, up, get it nice and tight. Okay. Now when you're starting to get to the end of paracord, when you've got about an inch left on the shortest strand, it's time to actually put it around our wrist and make sure we've got a good fit. Unfortunately at this point, if we find it's too big or too small, the only thing we can do is start again. But here, I find that's a pretty comfortable fit. I can fit one finger inside the wristband, so when I flex my wrist it's not going to be uncomfortable. So that's about right for me. Okay, so we take it off and then I finish the end. So this is the tricky part, and it's very easy to mess it up, so be careful. And what you want to do is you want to cut the paracord about that far away from the edge of your knot. Okay, like so. And we want to take our lighter and melt the edge. Give it a good amount of heat. Really set it on fire. Get it bubbling. Okay, so that's actually burning. So we blow that out, and then we take the edge of our knife and we just push it right up against the edge of the melted piece of paracord. And what this should do is it should push in the molten plastic and fuse it into the side of the knot, like so, you see? That will make it nice and sturdy, it's not going to come apart on its own then. Okay, and then we do the same thing on the other side. Cut it, so there's about ½ an inch left. Set it on fire. Get it bubbling nicely. Just be careful you don't get any plastic drip. Blow it out. And push the edge of our knife right up against the knot just to seal it. Just be careful because this plastic, when it's molten, is very hot. It's very easy to burn yourself. I've done it myself a couple of times now. You can see actually a drip of it drop down to my cutting board. It's fused to the surface of the board now, so you don't want that on your skin. Okay, and so again, it's like almost like a shiny glass finish, but that's pushed in and that's fused in against the sides of the knot now. And that's not going to go anywhere. That's going to take some going to undo. Okay? The only way you'd be able to undo that really is by cutting it, which is what you would want to do when you wanted to access your paracord in an emergency situation. So put it back on our wrist. Can be a little tricky to do one-handed, but you know, it's like that buckles. It's a new buckle, so again it's going to be stiff. The one I wear on a daily basis is nowhere near as bad as this one now. There we go. Push it in. Nice and comfortable. No unsightly pieces sticking out. And there we go. Our homemade 550 paracord bracelet. So as you can see, they're really easy to make. I definitely recommend that you give it a try. You know, if you really must buy one on the internet, make sure that you get one that hasn't had the core removed. You know, a lot of makers remove the core so they can put fancier patterns on, but without the core you're losing 90% of the functionality of the 550 in my opinion. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. As always, any questions, queries or problems, feel free to drop me a line. Cheers.